Good evening and welcome to AVT News. Over the past years, we have witnessed multiple aviation hijackings that have left many people feeling fearful and uncertain. In tonight's broadcast, we'll examine some of the most notable cases, take a closer look at the ongoing threat of aviation hijackings, and explore how airlines and authorities are working to keep passengers safe. So sit tight and join us as we dive into this critical issue that affects us all. We have our reporters covering some of the most significant events, and they're here to give us the highlights of these events. First, we have Miss Kyla Corporal, who has been following the September 11th attacks. Kyla, can you tell us more about this tragedy?
Thank you, Sheila. On September 11, 2001, groups of attackers boarded four domestic aircraft at the three East Coast airports, and soon after takeoff, they disabled the crews. The hijackers then took control of the aircraft, all large and bound for the West Coast with full loads of fuel. At 8:46 a.m., the first plane, American Airlines Flight 11, which had originated from Boston, was piloted into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The impact left a gaping, burning hole near the 80th floor of the 110-story skyscraper, instantly killing hundreds of people and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. As the evacuation of the tower and its twin got underway, television cameras broadcasted live images of what initially appeared to be a freak accident. Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 United Airlines Flight 175 appeared out of the sky, turned sharply toward the World Trade Center and sliced into the South Tower near the 60th floor. The collision caused a massive explosion that showered burning debris over surrounding buildings and onto the streets below. It immediately became clear that America was under attack. During that day at 9 p.m., President George Bush delivered a televised address from the Oval Office declaring, "Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. This act shatters steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve." After the devastating event, the hijackers were then identified. They were Islamic terrorists from Saudi Arabia and several other Arab nations. They were financed by the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization of Saudi fugitive Osama bin Laden. They were allegedly acting in retaliation for America's support for Israel. Some of the terrorists had lived in the United States for more than a year and had taken flying lessons at American commercial flight schools and acted as the muscle in the operations. This is Kyla Mirnadet Valenzuela Corporal reporting.
Thank you, Miss Corporal. Meanwhile, Turkey is still in despair following the devastating terrorist attack at Ataturk Airport, which left over 40 people dead and hundreds more injured. The attack, which was claimed by the terrorist organization ISIS, serves as a sobering reminder of the threat that terrorism poses on the global scale. Let us now hear more from Ms. Marjorie Mendoza. Ms. Mendoza.
On Christmas Day 2009, a day of celebration and peace, a potential catastrophe was unfolding in the skies over Metro Detroit. A Nigerian man, Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab, accused of trying to bomb a US-bound flight with explosives hidden in his underwear and has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab entered a guilty plea to planning to blow up a commercial aircraft as part of an Al-Qaeda suicide operation. His family immediately requested that the U.S. government examine the verdict. According to the prosecution, Abdul Muttalab suffered severe burns when a device concealed in his underpants failed to explode completely. Almost 300 people were in the flight from Amsterdam to Detroit. Prosecutors said a life sentence was warranted because an attempted terror attack heightens public fear and burdens airports with expensive and time-consuming security procedures. On board, the bomb failed to detonate completely and passengers had to put out the fire. Al-Haji Umaru Muttalab, Abdul Muttalab's father and a powerful banker with connections in Nigerian politics, claimed to have warned the American embassy and Nigerian authorities about his son in 2009. The US had already placed Abdul Muttalab on a watch list, but not a no-fly list. This is Marjorie Mendoza reporting.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. Moving on to more recent events, investigators are still looking for explanations for the German suicide crash in the French Alps, which claimed the lives of over 150 people. The tragedy has shocked the entire world, and as a result, the aviation sector is under increased scrutiny. Ms. Athena Espiritu, can you tell us more about this tragedy?
Yes, Sheila, this was actually a very shocking news, and it was a suicide murder mission by the co-pilot to bring this Germanwings jetliner down on the 24th day of March 2015, killing the 150 people on board, including the 144 passengers and 6 crew members. Apparently, he was believed to be alive all the way to the ground after locking out the pilot and the passengers screaming in the seconds before the impact. It happened at 38,000 feet when the pilot asked the co-pilot to take the controls. Within the moment, the 28-year-old German co-pilot Andreas Lubitz locks the cockpit door and from the inside and noses down the jetliner, heading to the ground. When the pilot returns to the door and starts banging it, there is no response from the inside. As they investigate, the cockpit voice recorder captures that Captain Lubitz is breathing all the time normally as the jetliner dives 22,000 feet in just about 10 minutes. Screams are heard in those final moments before it slams to the mountain near St. Les Alps. The Lubitz family held a press conference later in March 2017, at which Lubitz's father said that they did not accept the official investigative findings that his son deliberately caused the crash. By 2017, Lufthansa had paid €75 to the family of every victim, as well as €10,000 in pain and suffering compensation to every close relative of a victim. With that, all of the 150 passengers on board living through the horror of the final seconds of their lives. This is Athena Espiritu reporting.
Thank you, Ms. Espiritu. The security news officials have thwarted another underwear bombing attempt on a commercial airline. The plot was discovered and stopped before it could be carried out, but it's a chilling reminder of the continued threat of terrorism against aviation. Now let's hear more from Ms. Ragaza.
This footage shows the moment Istanbul's Atatürk airport was hit by a coordinated and deadly attack. Just before 10 p.m. way back in June 28, 2016, 3 suicide bombers working together stormed the busy international terminal. One reported opening the fire with a machine gun and detonating a device after being shot by the police. The Turkish Prime Minister blamed this so-called Islamic State group for the assault. According to the eyewitnesses who were in the terminal when the situation unfolded, people were shooting on one side and they all ran the other way. And suddenly, there were bombs that went off. At least 36 people died and more than 140 people were injured. Atatürk Airport is one of the busiest airports in Europe, wherein more than 61 million passengers passes through this airport yearly, making it a vulnerable target, and many now say that the authorities were unprepared for this assault of this scale. This is Sinzana Ragaza. Back to you, Sheila.
Thank you, Ms. Ragaza. This is your AVT News anchor, Sheila Arreglo. The September 11th attacks and other past events teach the civil aviation sector important lessons about the need of enacting stronger security measures. Through the creation of new technologies, practices, and regulations, these incidents act as a catalyst for the aviation sector to enhance passenger safety and security. The development of aviation security has been significantly influenced by incidents like the September 11th attacks and the attempted underwear bombings. In response to these occurrences, the aviation sector implemented stricter security protocols and rules to increase passenger safety. These incidents also influenced the creation of fresh security innovations, which are still developing and getting better today. Regarding airport security measures, there is always room for improvement. Implementing more refined screening technologies which can more effectively detect potential threats, is one area that could be improved. Training given to airport staff to better recognize potential security risks and take appropriate action is another area that needs improvement. In order to share information and intelligence and thwart potential security threats, there could also be better coordination between government agencies and airlines. Airport security procedures currently employ a variety of controls, including screening of tourists and their belongings, reinforced cockpit doors, and restricted access to particular areas. To monitor and react to potential security threats, airports implement trained security personnel. The type of security threat and the airport location may also affect the security protocols. Travelers are advised to arrive early and familiarize themselves with the security procedures in place, including the prohibited items for carry-on luggage.